You're listening to Grain of Salt, a podcast hosted by Donnie Burtless and Chris Seishu, covering the Buffalo Niagara region's food and drink scene. Today's episode features Kate and Dana from Betty Crockski, Buffalo's first and only Polish food truck. They chat with Donnie about starting a food truck, traveling to Poland for inspiration, and their quick rise in popularity.
Thank you guys so much for coming down to the studio and doing this with us. This is I know we've been trying to make this happen for a little bit now, but
thanks for having us.
we made it happen. We had the Bread Hive gals here I think like 3 weeks ago, and I kind of had them since there's different voices, I had them introduce who they were and what they did with Bread Hive. Do you guys have specific roles within Betty as well, or I guess you can introduce yourself and say what you do.
I'm Kate. We have some specific things, but we both do a lot of things. I would say Dana's more in charge of everything financial. I am more in charge of cooking and marketing, but That's very general. We both do everything.
Yeah, everyone, any of the big decisions, we both put in input. So, I'm Dana. If it's, the daily tweet, Kate's just going to throw that tweet up. But if it's, a big part of like a marketing campaign we want to do, or any sort of large promotion, or, she's not just willy-nilly deciding things, being like, oh, by the way, like any decisions, we go over just like I'll do all the accounting, but if we're going to buy something, we sit down and we look at numbers together. It's not just like I just go, yep, we can afford, like if it's a big thing, we sit down, we talk about it. So we both pretty much are involved with everything, but we both have a few things that we do more than the other.
I think that's good. I mean, everything has to have kind of the balance of personalities and what their skills are and things like that. I can definitely relate to the numbers side of things, as I'm a fellow accountant.
Yes.
I'm a fellow accountant.
Well, a fellow former accountant.
Former accountant, yes.
So I guess we should kind of just start at... Actually, so we're recording this in November, or December, rather. Jesus.
December 2nd.
And so you guys have been open since April, right?
March, technically, is when we started doing a few services, but we considered our official launch was Dingus Day.
Yeah. So you guys have passed the summer craziness, so to speak. We're kind of in like the slower point, I guess you'd say, of the year.
Yes and no. I mean, thank the Lord for the slowdown in volume of people. But I mean, the craziness of the summer and it being our first season, it was a really rigorous learning experience. So now we're kind of applying everything we learned and updating our operations. And I mean, the work has more administrative maybe than cooking and doing dishes. But
we're kind of now, like, in the summer, we grew through the summer, but we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants. Whatever happened, we'll figure it out. Crisis happens, oh my God. But we would figure it out. Now, most of those crises they're over with, and we now know how to prepare for them or handle them. So we don't have to deal with that anymore. So we have a smaller volume, but now the winters, it's a whole nother animal that we have to learn. It's not the same as just you show up at Larkin and 1 million people are at your truck. You have to come up with other strategies to make sure people get to your truck, because we still need to sell product. We don't need to sell as much, but we still need to sell.
We've had a couple other podcasts on here, and I think several of them have started in the winter months with the idea that they were going to like ease in to the summer. And it seems like you guys opened pretty close to the busy season, but also you guys had like an incredible amount of buzz like before you guys opened. Like I remember like reading a lot about you guys like in Buffalo Rising, and I think Buffalo Spree even wrote an article like in your kind of the debut dinner that you had. I can't remember the location it was at.
Oh my gosh, it was at St. Stan's.
Okay, yeah.
It's like the Mother Church of East Side Polonia.
Okay.
Like all of the East Side was kind of developed around St. Stan's. It was like the church that encouraged immigrants to lay down roots throughout the East Side because it was a church and a school and like a complex that created community.
Nice.
I mean, it's different than what it is now, but like when we were looking around at locations, it was one of her first ideas. We went in, looked at the hall, and it was too perfect. That was where we had to have it.
Yeah. I mean, but were you guys expecting, I mean, I personally think it was, you guys were, when I would go to Larkin, like you guys had the longest line, like maybe next to like Lloyd, which always has the longest line.
It's funny. My brother used to come and go, okay, we just scouted everything and you, maybe Lloyd, have the 2 longest lines. And I'm like, okay, really though? Are you lying?
Be real?
And he's like, no, I swear. And it was pretty, I mean, I think it was more than we expected, but at the same time, you kind of are like, well, maybe people will just love us that much. But then you're like, no, they don't.
I think a lot of it had to do with even prior to the preview party at St. Stan's was the Poland blog. That's when we started having a lot of, like, I think our initial like social media buzz and stuff, because we were in Poland and documenting pretty heavily while we were like taking cooking classes and eating food and going all over, and we went to multiple cities and we're kind of like using that as our like R&D? Continuing education trip or whatnot. I mean, like, and that's when I think like we started, like you said, the press started a little early.
I will say that was when I got excited, because I think over the time, like, we've seen a lot of food trucks that have had kind of like okay ideas and maybe not the greatest of execution. And when I saw that you guys were like going out of your way to like actually go to like Poland and like do like the proper work into it, that's when I realized like wow, like this could be actually like really, really good. So I think a lot of people thought the same thing.
That's kind of what we were hoping. We would hope that it would give us some authenticity and some credibility, that we know what we're doing, and if we don't, we will after this trip. And we're learning more on this trip, and we're experiencing not just the food, but the culture, and we're learning more about that identity, and that's what we were kind of going for.
So great to hear you say that, too, because like so many people in our family and friend circles were like, do you think it's wise to be spending money when you're starting a business going to Europe? And,
Yeah, shut up.
I'm going to go to Poland. I'm going to have a great time.
Uh-huh.
So where, okay, I guess we should start at the beginning. Like how far back before March was Betty Crockski like an idea?
Memorial Day.
Go ahead,
of 2012.
Oh, shit.
We were at, or 12? Is it 13?
13.
13, okay. 13. I was losing track of my years. And
what is the month of Memorial Day?
May. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were at my brother's barbecue, and the idea kind of was born. And we always have like stupid, well, maybe not stupid, but just over the top, exaggerated dreams, as if we have like $2 million in our bank account to just start all these crazy things.
I know that.
And and then you talk about them for a week, maybe 2, and you're like, okay, we are out of our league. Absolutely. Pump the brakes, sister.
But in that week or two, though, you should know we go as far as to like start drafting out a business plan and like making phone calls to people before we realize it's out of our league.
But this one went on and on and on, and I was living in New York at the time, and we were just kind of like, well, like, are we just going to keep talking about this, or are we going to do this? What do we think?
Was it always a Polish cuisine food truck?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was always, and that was always what it was going to be. I think exactly what we were going to serve, and that changed immensely over time. From the idea to then we try, this is horrible, to we had, I moved back almost a year ago today from New York, and we started just developing recipes, and Kate had read a lot about, Polish ingredients, and, I had grown up making traditional pierogi in my house, but then she was reading about more like core ingredients that we could use in different ways. Okay. Polish ingredients not used in a traditional way necessarily. And she kind of had thoughts in her head, and a lot of them worked out beautifully, and then some of them we were like, oof, we need to tweak that because it needs more of this or less of that or this or that. And at first, we had a few friends over, and we did a quote-unquote tasting party. There were like 5 people over. We made 8 cheese pierogies.
And this was maybe, I would say, second week in December, when we had become like full-time Betty. From the idea to December, it was just, like over the phone and long distance, and like doing a lot of the planning and financial planning as like our gig while we knew that, like December would come. Go ahead. 8 pierogies.
Yeah, we ate pierogies, and it was like some of them one bite. No, sick, get it out of here.
At least you had friends who weren't going to
we told them, we're like, you are of no use to us if you're not going to speak up. So and we purposely, we invited friends who kind of would be blunt or knew food well. So, and we did... I think it was, maybe it was 12 pierogies. It was like 6
versions of a cheese pierogi.
No, was it six fillings, 2 different doughs? So we did each filling with both doughs.
Now that is dedication. Right?
So, and then we did like 8 sausage variations.
Which then became 4, which became 2, but then the 2 had to be tweaked for probably another week before we were settled on what our first core sausage would be. I mean, that was the most fun part. That was the best part.
Was there any part though? Like, see, I'm always a pessimist, and I would always be nervous that every time I made something horrible, I'd be like, do I know what I'm doing? Like, was there no doubt?
For sure.
It crushes your soul. Oh God, you
like,
work
was there
all
any
day
like where you felt like really good? You're like, you guys got to try this, and then it's like, no, it's fine.
Oh my God. Let me describe to you that one moment, because I was getting real big in my britches when we were doing a cheese pierogi variation. And it was like something like farmer cheese, sage, orange zest, and fresh nutmeg with a lemon twist. Or just
and I think we thought it was really brilliant.
Like, this is sophisticated. And like the acidity level is going to be X, Y, and blah, blah, blah. And it tasted like a perfume bottle got sprayed on your tongue. It was the worst. It was a nightmare. And like...
Your brother was like... Yeah, I really didn't like that.
Because Kate, I don't know. Can you cook? Are you sure? It was, and you have a number of those, and we were doing all these that just so many. Every time someone says it's horrible, you're thankful they say it's horrible. But maybe you go home and you feel real bad about yourself for that night. Yeah, sure.
But our crow and pork, I would say we didn't do any variations on, pretty much. Very small, if anything.
I would agree.
And the potato and cheese were the ones that we just kept changing.
We felt like we couldn't hit.
The cheese, we're doing a deep fried cheese ball in the middle. It was bad. Just because we couldn't, we would have these ideas, and then you would try to execute them, and we're like, it's not working. Something's off. Yeah. Something's gone wrong.
That's actually a real thing. Deep fried cheese ball in the middle of a cheese
like a mozzarella stick?
Yeah, kind of. It was going to be like an Emmenthal mozzarella ball. Okay. A Swiss ball, if you will.
All right, yeah.
Inside,
we're sitting in her kitchen, because this is before we're actually up and running, so we don't have like a real kitchen yet. We're sitting in her kitchen with a saucer and some oil with a teaspoon, deep frying these balls. And I'm like, this is going to take a long time if we make a lot of these.
I just keep going. Let's try it.
When do you think you had like the final menu figured out? Like, so if you opened you started doing some service in March. When, or were you still
mid-February?
Well, let's say mid-February, because we were pretty much in place by the time we previewed the food at the preview party. But we still tweaked after that.
Yeah,
I'd say we were really settled into what the food would be by Dingus Day. That was April 21st, 2014, the grandest day of our lives.
But then we still made changes after that. Yeah. So small changes, but
yeah.
There's just things that you can't know when you're making small quantity until when we had kind of, like you said, we were unprepared for the volume we were going to make.
400 people in line or something.
Right. So, changes have to be made to accommodate.
That's awesome.
It was really
I have
great.
to say, the pork pierogi is one of my favorite things to eat, period.
Awesome.
Because it's such a nice thing to say.
Because it has the mustard in it, right? Like
it does.
And you can taste it, and it's not like a super sweet pierogi, and it's just like whenever I get an order to go for my wife or anything, she pretty much just requests 3 of those, and so do I, because I think it's phenomenal. I think you guys nailed that. And I was so impressed that. I came back, and then I had the sausage and everything else, and I was super pumped. You guys have really done a great job with the recipes.
Thank
and it's
you
awesome
so
to hear that you guys took so much time, because I you guys have you're kind of one of the later waves of the food truck movement, because it started in 2010, so you guys have kind of gotten to see some of the other food trucks that came before you, and I think a lot of them opened maybe without the guise of making great food, but because food trucks were cool, or this was an easier thing to do than a restaurant. And to see like the food come first is awesome.
And that's it's really nice to hear because it is
that's
sometimes
why we got into it.
Yeah, and it's sometimes frustrating, when you hear certain people who maybe don't understand what we're going for. We're not a fast food place. Yeah. We're trying to serve restaurant quality food. It happens to be out of a truck, and we don't have a dining room for you.
Yeah.
But we hope you enjoy it as much as you would enjoy a restaurant quality food, except it's on a paper plate.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what.
I think that's what the best food trucks do.
That's what we hope. But you get people who don't understand that, and that's what we like to try to convey. Like, we're not just trying to slap food out every 10 seconds.
Yeah,
we're trying to make sure it looks beautiful, tastes beautiful. And I don't care if you eat it sitting on the lawn or you sit it at your desk, it should still taste like restaurant quality food.
So your first meal that you served in the church, was it? Was it pretty much like you knew most of the people that were there, or were there some okay?
We called it, in joking in the planning, the Betty wedding, because we both invited pretty much every friend and family member we'd ever met in our lives of any significance.
That's awesome.
It was
as long as they lived in Buffalo. We had no one travel from out of town for the premiere party.
But then, we had a few press people come last minute that caught wind of it. I mean, because we didn't want to over publicize, because so we were just sharing our journey with the most 200 closest people we could come up with.
Yeah.
But that was just friends and family. But like they said, with a little bit of press coverage that we got, we had one spree writer who caught wind of us early. And Lauren Maynard, thanks for all of those wonderful,
so jealous.
Kind
when
words.
I saw her post, I was like, she beat me.
Oh. Yeah. No, she was great.
She did a great job. And that got me, even more pumped about it. But you decided to keep your, the grand opening for Dingus Day.
Yeah.
Which I will say is very ballsy and very, very, I bow down. That is, to open up a Polish food truck on Dingus Day, I'm assuming, in the east side?
We were right by a central terminal.
Was there any... I don't want to say concern, but anxiousness of serving a pretty hyped Polish crowd?
Oh
Polish
my God.
food?
I think I cried every day before.
Yes.
I think we had my mom helping, my brother helping, just anyone. Because we were we cannot make enough pierogi. It's no matter how many we make, we will not make enough. And we knew that.
Yeah.
And I just remember, this is one I don't even think we've ever talked about because it's so embarrassing. But my mom was there and I think my brother might have been there. And we were at the kitchen that we were at. And I was just I cannot handle this anymore. And I went into the back closet and just cried, bawled, and then tried to come out I was fine. Hey guys,
and I remember,
how are we having
are we good? In the closet for 10 minutes.
And my mom, I think, was were you crying? And I'm like, yeah, so what? And she's like, oh. And I remember hearing her whisper to Katie, is she okay? Is everything going to be okay with her? And Katie's like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes she just gets really weird when she gets stressed. And I remember hearing you guys. And I'm like, you know what? I can hear you. I may have cried and I can't see you, but I can hear you.
No, you know what? There was no criticism because it was the same thing. That week leading up, the stress. And we had thought we had confidence in our recipes until we had to make 800 of everything.
Yeah.
It's just a different
Do you know how long it takes in one day?
I don't even know.
Oh my God, we were there till 1 a.m. every day.
For a week straight.
It was horrible. I was getting pierogi elbow. She was getting arthritis.
Pierogi elbow is a condition that results from constant dough rolling until 1 a.m, much like tennis elbow, just different part of your
I was going to say, is this something like old Polish?
No, I had to I would stretch it out. Yeah. It was, and what you were getting carpal tunnel in your wrist.
Jeez.
But it was worth it.
Because Dingus Day is gigantic. I think most people know in Buffalo. We have the largest one in the country.
Yeah.
And so,
you know what? I've actually been told in the world, our friend in Poland told us that in Poland itself, Dingus Day is more just for little kids to run around and play. It's not an adult holiday.
It's not a let's get wasted
it's
in
not
a central terminal.
do. It's it's just for little kids to throw water on each other before school, but they still go to school.
Right. Yeah.
It's not what we do.
I think this is Mr. Eddie Dobashevit's spin on it, and it's awesome and makes us world famous around the world and the country for that. Yeah. So it's an awesome thing that he's done that brings a lot of publicity to Buffalo and gives people a reason to get out early into the year and celebrate, whether you're Polish or you're from Buffalo. Gives you a reason to just be happy.
Yeah. So, it's a pretty natural fit to open up a Polish food truck or like have a grand opening on Dingus Day? Like, where did that idea?
You know, when we first came up, like when we were discussing when we should launch, we thought like, is this a little too ambitious? It's only 4 months into our like development process, and we're going to take this on. Yeah. But what other day would have been better? Like
a random day.
It was
May
just
1st?
Some will show up at some. We're at the first Larkin, or should we be at the world's biggest Dingus Day celebration?
That's genius. You guys did a great job with that.
We tried. When we look back, though, I mean, obviously, we've learned a lot this summer, the summer of chaos. For anyone who was in that line and who's now been in subsequent lines, sorry about those long waits. We were still learning. But,
how was the actual
I think people
day?
said they were waiting like an hour and then like a half an hour for the food. Which now we could probably do in half that time. But still, you would still wait a half an hour and 15 minutes for your food because that's just, there were so many people. And you can only fit 4 people on the truck. Like, we can't go any faster than the 4. And now we're like a well-oiled machine. I don't think you could really get any faster. We have it down to like, we've shaved seconds off of spots. So it's not going to get any faster. You're limited to one cooking surface, one person, you're limited by those. We're not working with a commercial sized kitchen. Yeah. So, but I absolutely think we could get that wait time down. But I even remember I was taking orders and I had friends come from New York and Illinois, and I remember seeing them like really far back in line. I'm like, oh dear, I hope we have pierogi when they get here. Because I'm like, can you imagine they come all the way from these different states and they come up and I'm like, guys, how about a sausage?
I was turning around to look at the line just in an act of self-torture every time, just so the fear could get back in my heart and make me move faster. But that line was like 100 deep. Dingus Day was a sobering day in the Betty land.
Looking back, we probably should have done a few more services prior to.
Right. But what we thought was our little soft launches.
Should have been double the time length.
Right. Well, we would go and serve lunch to 20 people and be like, we're ready. We're totally ready. Let's go. Let's do this.
I have 2 points. One, even if our execution on Dingus Day wasn't the best, from what I hear, our parade team was the best.
Yes.
We had I used to have a pickup, and we had one of my friend's dads driving it, and probably 10 people in the bed and 15 people walking, friends, family, throwing beads, throwing pussy willows with squirt guns, squirting people till they were soaked. And from what I've told, I had my 55-year-old aunt call me being like, that was the most fun I have ever had in my life. My mom's boyfriend, mid-60s, was like, that was a riot.
That's awesome.
People were, my friend's parents who were the strictest parents you ever could know growing up, bombed out of their mind, ordering 5 Betty boxes by the time they got up there. And I'm like, Mr. So-and-so, you've been drinking. No, I haven't. Never. I don't know what you're saying. But it was fun.
You had a second point.
The second point was our first soft launch. How great that was.
Oh.
The things you could never expect.
Yeah, so where was that?
That was at the Adam Mickiewicz Library, right on the east side.
Yeah. I've never been there, but I'm dying to go. It's on my
place.
wish
It's a cool place.
It's this place in Old Polonia that you gotta hit.
Do you really need a member card?
No.
Okay.
I don't
if
think
you go there,
if I go with somebody who speaks Polish, am I okay?
You know what? Here's how it's gonna work. You're gonna go there once, twice. By the 3rd time, they're gonna be like, "So, would you like to buy a membership?"
You damn right I do.
Mm-hmm. So I mean,
I think the
you
membership
get a
is like
couple of
$10.
gratis entries, but yeah, and it's no
need to
big.
go there.
And then you get to go hang out there.
There's a cool upstairs. It's really a cool little thing. It's cool. So we were contacted by one of the, is he an owner? Is he considered?
John Killian, one of the owners, perhaps manager.
And he contacted us, and we kind of did a joined little party. He promoted it. We promoted it. And we thought, this is going to be great. We're going to be so good at this. So she drove, and I don't know why I drove in my separate car. There was some reason. I don't know why. And she pulls up in the Betty Mobile, and I'm like, why isn't she getting out of the truck? What is she doing in there? So I finally crawl up the front seat. I'm like, Katie. She's sitting on the floor surrounded by pierogi and sausage laying on the floor. What happened?
Just a sea of wasted hours at my feet.
And I'm like, what did you do? I took a turn in the fridge, it came flying up.
Just flew right open.
Half the
I
food.
didn't know what happened. I didn't know I didn't know that would happen.
And
it was
I'm like,
my first time owning a food truck. I didn't know the fridges would open.
Well, I mean, we drove from New York to Buffalo. The fridges didn't fly open. Oh, guys, there wasn't any food in them.
So meanwhile,
how much of the food are we talking about?
Probably like half of it, which was still, we had enough. I don't think we sold out of anything because we thought we made enough food for like if 700 people showed up. So we were fine. It was just the waste. And I'm like, can you salvage any of it? And she's like, no, look at this.
It's touched the floor. Dana actually, I think, said to me, well, it's a brand new truck. Dana, what are you saying? It's a brand what?
And I'm like, oh my God, okay, let's fill a garbage bag with brand new food.
All right.
And then, okay, so I'm like, let's make sure we duct tape this fridge on the way home. So we put like 3 layers on it to make sure that thing isn't going anywhere. Well, we pull it back to our kitchen. She opens the back door.
Yet again, Kate's not getting out the car.
She finally opens the back door.
Silence.
She opens the back door. I can't. There's a sea of mustard on the floor from the back fridge.
The back fridge?
Who thought of the back fridge?
Only the front fridge got taped. God damn it. And by that point, man, I'm just sitting on the floor. And I think I was crying at that point.
I remember you mopping the floor with the grease, because it's like a sticky, it's like sticky, and left like a grease because it was a ton of it. It's freezing February day. Icicles are forming, and she's like, "Oh my god."
I think one of my favorite things of talking to food truck owners is like realizing the food truck quirks that they experience along the way.
And you know what's real bad about that one? This is a real lady food truck problem, is that for maybe another month, 2 months after that, we continue to just tape the fridges shut rather than putting like a clasp on it and permanently solving the problem.
It's a house. You're so embarrassing.
No, we tape them every day.
I went to Home Depot, bought them, and got to the truck and was like, I'm too afraid to install these. We're going to ruin the refrigeration. So we kept duct taping, and finally Katie was like, I'm not buying another roll of duct tape. So we are going to solve this problem because another roll is not being purchased. And one of the guys that works at the kitchen, we were like, can you please? And he was like, girls, it's like the easiest thing. Oh, well, we were afraid we were going to ruin
We're going to
something.
drill into the Freon tank or anyway, the lessons you learn.
It's really...
That's the best part, though, is learning. Oh, for me, I think it's very entertaining to learn.
The little things that you think of that you just never...
The moment when Dana opens the back of the truck and I'm like the girl from The Ring sitting in a pool of ruined food and mustard.
No, it's bad. Or the things you just never thought of. Before this launch party, Katie was like, okay, we got to do a practice round, guys. We got to do a practice.
So please don't. This is so embarrassing.
And I'm like, okay, I guess. I think we know what we're doing. This is so easy, whatever. So I take a practice order to an imaginary person. Oh, you'd like a potato and a cheese? Oh, would you like okay, great. Well, that's so great. Would you like some sour cream? Okay, what's your name? Oh, Anne? Okay, 5 minutes, Anne.
Wow.
So I give the ticket to Katie. We got
By the way, you're by yourselves, I'm assuming?
Yeah, just
sitting in the driveway at the kitchen.
Just practicing. So we do the one and we're like, we got this. We're great.
Ready to hit the road.
Ready.
We're good.
So,
We could do hundreds of more of these.
yeah,
Totally fine. Totally
so
prepared.
we get to the place and we have her brother comes and helps us, and we have one of our good friends come. I'm like, okay, Jeremy, what you're going to do is you are going to make any of the opens. When someone makes an open rogie, that's what you're doing. No one gets open rogies in February, but that's what you're going to do. Don't move. You're standing right there. Now, Jenna, you are in charge of getting drink orders and T-shirt sales. That's it. As if we were going to be selling those rapid fire. So little did we think of, when I take the order, we don't have a ticket bar. Tickets to flying. Just it was a scene. So these are the things that we've learned throughout. It's been a thing.
Were you? When would you say you stopped having? Are you still in November or December finding little things that you're still learning? Or are you guys pretty set? You haven't had any surprises lately.
No surprises for a while.
I think
That's
operational.
Things have been great. We've had, I guess, the only thing that's been slightly more convenient is now that the climate's changed, it's a little bit easier working in the cold than in the heat.
Oh my God, I can't imagine
the cold is freezing, but it's
you were not going to die of heat stroke. So that's better.
I've been to several of those the Larkin events here where it's been like 1,000,000 degrees.
Yeah, and it's even 1,000,000 plus 10, 20 inside the truck.
Yeah.
Roasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think operationally we're pretty smooth. Like a little thing will come up here and there, but now it's more just like adjusting our strategy through the winter to come up with different ways to execute and try to continue to grow and get customers and keep sales going.
So we kind of briefly touched on it. I kind of want to talk about the Poland trip because I thought that was one of the things that definitely stuck out to me. What did you guys do or learn while you were overseas?
So glad you asked. I love talking about the Poland trip. It was my first time going to Europe, not Dana's. She'd been to Poland twice prior and all throughout Europe, but my first round, so pretty enthusiastic. When we went to, we went to Warsaw, Krakow, and then to a mountain town called Zakopane, and then back to Krakow before we left. And we were talking about it before we came over here, about some of our favorite moments. And I was thinking we had an amazing meal on our first night in Warsaw and our first night in Poland that's worth talking about. It's at Poland's only Michelin-starred restaurant. Atelier Amaro is the name of it. And
we actually just put a post mentioned it last week.
We did. The chef is so celebrated and his reputation is for using native ingredients in inventive ways, which is kind of speaks to the way that we wanted to cook. So we were so excited to sit down and eat with him. And we had an 8-course meal, each one more beautiful than the last. And we were having we shared this meal with a couple of our friends who are Polish girls who met us there, who Dana hadn't seen in years.
I met them. The story's way too long, but met them 4 years ago randomly at the Serbian border. And kept in touch with them on Facebook. And when we were going back, invited them to meet us. Katie never met them. And we had a flawless, amazing time. Just 2 Polish great gals and 2 American gals just eating amazing food. So go on.
And like I said, each thing more unforgettable than the last. So many just creative takes on native ingredients, using pickling and preservation in ways that you've never heard of and seen before. The one thing that I was so impressed was the creative use of rose water in savory ways that kept coming back into this meal. It was the one decadent ingredient that was historically founded that kept coming back into the single meal that we had. At the end of it, we're about to leave and Dana goes, let's see if we could go down to the kitchen for a tour. And I'm completely embarrassed. And Matt's that is ridiculous.
You're like, Dana,
we're
absolutely
look like
not.
The dorkiest
Do
American
not.
tourists on the planet. I'm like,
no.
Hey, could we go downstairs?
And I'm like, I'm asking. And you're like, no, Dana, don't. Do not. And I'm like, Katie, if they don't want to, they'll just say no. I mean, we just spent a lot of money here, and we've been bonding with the staff. Why? Can just say no, and I won't be offended, but I'll be mad if I don't try. Dana, I'm serious. Please don't. Dana goes up and does it. Yeah, absolutely. Come on down.
They take
Kick
us
yourself,
downstairs.
Catherine.
They're letting us leaf through their cookbooks. They made us a special 4th dessert course to just eat down there among them, the 4 of us, to hang out with the chefs. Oh, Christ. And speaking of bonding with the staff, we had been bonding with the staff all night. And the one of them, we were commenting, I'm like, he had great, awesome, cool sleeves that were really unique and really creative. I'm like, oh, hey, where'd you get these done? He's like, oh, well, I only go to this one place. It's called Black Star Tattoo. And you have to get an appointment. You can't make it in there.
6 months in advance.
Well, let's just say we were asking, but okay, fine. He goes, well, do you want to get an appointment? And we're like, well, that really wasn't on the docket. We're here on a culinary journey. And he goes, well, you know what? Give me your number. And the next day he called and said he got us an appointment. I'm like, I guess we had to get some tattoos in Warsaw. So that was part of it. That happened. We got matching tattoos.
That's awesome.
Just to,
Different spots, a little bit different, but we both got them. I was originally just going to get it, and then Kate was like, you know what? Got to do it. Got to have it. So it was really cool, and it was a thing that we're both, we can know. It's in Polish, and we got it in a Polish tattoo in Poland. How many people can do that? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I mean, so was the whole trip about you guys discovering Polish cuisine that maybe you didn't experience because it's somewhat Americanized here? Or?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
What I know about Polish cooking was Polish American.
Yeah.
What I learned, been taught, and had eaten my whole life was Polish American food. And it was born out of a culture that was 100 to 150 years old. When Polish immigrants came to America, it was in a time of great poverty. So like the Polish American food reflects a historical period of less ingredients, less opportunity, and it's sturdy and heartwarming food. But current Polish cooking is not so bland. It's not so potato driven. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more on plates in Poland that's elegant and sophisticated and still remaining true to tradition that we really wanted to try and sample. One of our best experiences actually was in the next place when it was Krakow. We went to the Culinary Institute of Krakow and took some cooking classes. And it was really cool there because something that I think was only available to the affluent Polish people was a really regional influence that was kind of Middle Eastern. Okay. Lots of Middle Eastern spice profiles and a lot of like French techniques. A lot of things like we did not expect at all based on the Polish food we've always known to cook and eat.
Yeah. And so when was this roughly, like in the, like what months?
January.
In January?
Yeah.
So did that impact your recipes going forward? Like did you?
Yeah. When we came back, there was a couple of edits.
And a couple inspirations on specials.
Yeah, constant inspirations on specials. Whenever we think we're running dry on ideas, just go back and look through your camera roll. You find something.
Even if it's just one ingredient that you like the way they used a certain ingredient that you never thought to use, we might try to replicate that one ingredient in a different dish. But just some sort of inspiration. It definitely served as a lot of inspiration. I mean, and we had a lot of fun on the way.
Oh, God, yeah.
Also.
Do you think you'd want to go back and have like a refresher, or I mean, obviously you'd always.
Of course I want to go back. Who's paying for my ticket?
Yeah, I want to go back. I want to go back and go for like round 2 of everything that we didn't make the first cut.
Yeah. Have you guys eaten Polish food locally in restaurants since you started a food truck?
I have not.
I have, but I mean that's just because every family occasion. Okay, this will sound like a horrible thing to say, but whenever somebody dies, we always have the thing at Polish Villa afterward. I mean,
yeah. But did you take like a temperature of what the area was serving and try to change what you were doing?
Okay, growing up, I had always eaten at different Polish establishments and made Polish food in my house. So that was kind of, I think, the original basis, and then everything changed from there, from Kate's research, our ideas, Poland, and then execution from our friends' input, from everything kind of changed from there. I think the original base and inspiration is growing up in Buffalo, lots of Polish people being raised in a Polish family, taking those recipes and, okay, this is what we always had. This is what everyone's kind of used to. How can we kind of keep that, but then give it a whole new twist?
Yeah.
And that was kind of what the goal was.
Yeah.
Because our kind of thought process was, there's a lot of places in Buffalo you can get a cheese pierogi.
Yeah. And
they're all going to be, within reason, fairly similar. They're a farmer's cheese with some sort of something in them.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's gone to Broadway Market.
Yeah.
Well, and that was something we've noticed as a trend in a lot of Buffalo food is that, like, we have grown in levels of, like, sophistication so fast. I mean, for a long time there. And I would say even into the 2000s, we were kind of in, like, still, like, mid-century 50s food kind of way of dining. And it has all grown and changed so quickly. And we thought, like, same thing with the Polish American food that we are all so comfortable with. It makes you feel like you're in your grandma's house and you're getting a hug, but, like, we could also maybe try something else, and there might be people who might enjoy it.
Were you ever nervous about the old grandma ladies or the purists?
Oh my gosh!
Yes. Like if you saw like one of them come up to the window, you're like, "Gosh."
You know what?
We still are today. We like don't even want to truly look them in the eye because we want them to like us, even though we're doing.
And you know what? We do get majority of people will be like, "Wow, that I didn't expect it to be like that, but that was great." You know, older grandmas or whatever. You do get certain people that don't like it or it's not what they're used to or whatever. But you know, that's then fine.
You're not coming to Larkin.
Then fine. You don't have to eat. You know, we hope that you at least can appreciate that it's high quality ingredients that require, you know, higher level cooking skills and techniques and creativity. It may not be exactly what your grandma made, but recognize it as it still has a lot of flavor, and that's kind of what we're going for. So we have a lot of little old lady regulars that I'm like, yes, yes. They don't feel like we abandoned them, because it is a little scary. And even before we started, we got a few, just a few messages from people being like, I hope you're gonna, with like thoughts of what they want us to serve.
Yeah.
I hope you serve this, that, and that. And we're like, well.
Like goat blood soup or something?
Chardina or, just very traditional things. And we kind of, just per basis chose how we wanted to respond to those things. But we were like, oh, shoot, are we getting like a little too creative? But I'm like, we're not. We're still doing the main ingredients, but just with our twist on it,
Yeah. I think the best part, so like I heard about a Polish food truck opening, and I try not to be skeptical, but I was always afraid of like somebody like just taking like frozen pierogies or something like that and throwing on a truck. And when I had your food, you could taste that it was homemade. You could taste that it was a little bit extra than maybe what I've had other places. And I think people like you guys so much because of that. I mean, obviously you guys won your first year out. You won a Buffalo Spree Award for best new truck.
Yeah.
That was the best day.
It was awesome because we were there, and I got to see you guys like in your full excitement. And
that was the first day we ever met in person.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
We had no idea. They told us they contact you and they tell you you've won an award,
and they don't tell you what it is.
Yeah. So we're thinking, okay, maybe we got best Twitter. Because how could we win best food truck? Like, we didn't know there was an old and a new category.
Yeah.
So we're like, we couldn't have won best food truck. So, I mean, and we're going through all the categories. Well, no, we couldn't have gotten that. Then we die when we get the award, but you have to keep it like you like cool because you're in front of like tons of people.
You're among all other winners. You can't be just gushing.
So we're
like,
wow, that's great. Okay, cool.
I lost my shit in front of other people. So.
We should have maybe, but like we both just kind of looked at each other with the eyes like, keep it in. But here's the best. So we walk around, we try all the samples, we're having a great time. We meet you guys, we talk to Pete and Chris from Lloyd. We're just walking around, talking to other people. And we decided, we need to go out for a celebratory drink. So we drive around the corner, and I park behind Katie, and she gets out of her car and is hitting my car with the magazine. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, we are on the cover. We walked through that whole event, had no idea that we were on the cover. No idea. None. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she puts it on my window. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's got to be great.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
That's like one of those things where like the parents are like tearing up and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, I had a similar thing, not a cover, obviously, like you guys, but that like regardless of what you do, something like that you can show like a parents or family, like that's like the one thing that they'll be like, oh, you guys made it.
Be proud. No, but you had some good publicity your way these days. You're doing pretty all right, Mr. Buffalo Eats.
I appreciate that. But no, it was great to meet you guys there, and it was awesome to see how excited you guys were because like you could tell it was genuine and that it was very natural, excitement.
There was something like in the air when all the awards went out that, like you felt like you're the new kids and like, oh, yeah, maybe next year we'll get something. And then an email comes in and both of us jumping around screaming like teenagers. Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you guys, you mentioned like Pete and Chris, have you guys had like a lot of contact with the local food truck guys or sharing? Did you guys reach out at all before you thought about opening one or how'd that go?
We didn't really reach out before we thought about opening, but all of the trucks have been so great to work with. Everybody just kind of helps each other out.
That's awesome.
Like if we're, at an event and someone needs something, everybody's always there to help one another and everybody's so welcoming and friendly. And we're all kind of like working together to, like
build awareness,
make events better, build awareness. Yeah. And it's such a great community to have entered into.
Awesome.
I think it's a very scratch your back, I scratch yours. Like we help you out this time, and next time when we run out of something, you're gonna help us out, kind of thing, in a nice way. And we we'll shoot each other an email. Hey, I saw you guys went to this location. How was it? Just to kind of, or we'll do the same thing. Hey, we've never been there. Do you think this is a spot worth going to? And we kind of do all help each other. At the end of the day, it is, of course, competition.
Yeah.
And you need to be real to that. But, I mean, we're all serving different food. You all have different fan bases.
It's very complimentary.
So for the most part, we're all just there to help each other because in the macro scheme, if the food truck industry grows, it's better for all of us.
Oh, God, yeah.
The more people that know about food trucks, the more businesses that want us there, the more easy the laws are, the more easy the regulations are. Everyone is helped out in the end by that. So it's, in the end, you do, from a macro scheme, want everyone to do well because it just helps the industry as a whole.
How has the, over the last, 6 months or so, figuring out locations and stuff like that, has that gotten easier? Or is there still places where you're stocked for a bunch of people and you get there and there's 5 or vice versa? Have you gotten that down or?
Yes and no. I mean, it still happens that we will be surprised by a location, but for the most part now we don't sell out anymore. We come prepared. That took a little practice, but that was just part of the learning process.
Oh yeah.
Here, the way that we've kind of had some of our locations develop is that, we have our constants, but then we're always trying to develop new ones where we see voids in food. If there's a food desert, we will be the oasis.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to try to get we're trying to get creative in our spots, especially now in the winter. In the summer, we really didn't have to do that much because so many places are reaching out to us to book them. So it's, yes, we're available. No, we're not. It's pretty much, we're turning down people all the time, not because we don't want to go there, because we only have one truck. We can only be in one spot at one time.
Yeah.
But now in the winter, a lot of places, a lot of lunch locations don't really want food trucks in the winter because whatever, I don't know if they don't think it's worth their time or they don't want to bother with it. So we've had to get more creative in the winter.
I saw you guys out till midnight the other.
We've done 2 late nights, trying to just find, like she said.
I can't think of anything I'd rather have drunk
than a pork pierogi.
Than a pork pierogi, honestly.
A starch plate, me either.
No, it's awesome. It's really cool to explore those other avenues.
And that's what the winter is giving us time. We're slowing down a little, so we have to explore different options that will work. And we found a few good ones and some that were maybe that wasn't the best idea, but you got to try.
I think every food truck has had that where they've kind of okay, they're nice, but no.
Or you just get the misguided, you've watched a few too many movies. You don't just always show up and people just come.
Yeah.
You learn.
I guess we can wrap it up by saying, what do you guys want to do, going forward, 2015? Preparing for that summer. I'm assuming you guys are going to go back to Dingus.
Oh my gosh, of course.
You kind of have to.
Of course.
Is there anything you'd like to see expand with the truck or explore different menu items or anything like that? Or
both of those things. As we've had a little more time on our hands, we've been expanding our specials. Through the holidays, we're going to have a few specials, as well as we just launched Take Betty Home, where we have frozen pierogi, frozen sausage, and our mustard available. Yeah. So we're going to be having our... Available? Pardon?
I love your mustard, and I would love to have a bottle, so I will be hitting you up for this.
You can have it. It comes in 16-ounce containers, and it's only $10 small dollars.
I will buy that.
We'll have our 4 regular core pierogi for sale, as well as some of our holiday specials. We did a Thanksgiving pierogi, except we call it's the Holiday Harvest pierogi. Nice. And it went over pretty darn well, so we're thinking we're going to bring it back this week for the Larkin holiday party.
Nice.
And have some of that available frozen on the truck as well. Through the winter, we're going to be hitting some of the winter markets as well
to very cool.
Just see who is interested in taking Betty home,
Yeah, that's kind of our big winter, in addition to the truck being out. We want to try to, in a sense, it's, retail, not necessarily in a retail avenue, but you don't have to go to the truck. We're at a market, like Katie said, or you can pick it up at the truck, or send us an email beforehand. But we want our products to be available. If you don't feel like making pierogi for your family Christmas Eve or your family Vigilia, then order 6 dozen from you. We'll package them up, and off you go. So that's awesome. Kind of what we are trying to make big through Christmas and Easter.
Yeah,
and then now we'll be more prepared in every aspect for the summer that's to come.
Yeah. Godspeed, because It'll be here before we know it, I'm sure.
Yes, it will.
And Godspeed to you.
Well, Dana, Kate, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. I've wanted to talk to you guys for a while, and so I'm glad we made it happen. And
we are glad also.
Thanks for having.
Yeah, and please keep up the great work. I mean, you guys are hands down one of our favorite food trucks to go to, and
thank you.
I was so excited when I finally had my first bite, and it lived up to my expectations. So,
Donnie, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.